So let me play a quick clip for you from yesterday, and I want to share this with you because he touches on a couple of things, meaning President Trump, but also this is a lot of the feedback I'm getting from just people I talk to these days.
But we have a sick country in many ways. It's sick in elections and it's sick in the border. And if you don't have good elections and if you don't have a strong border, you don't have a country.
So people I talk to are like, Chris, I feel like I'm in the twilight zone because nothing makes sense what actually is coming out of DC these days. So I want to get your takes first on the elections. Today, Supreme Court rules saying no more ballot harvesting based on this Arizona election. And this seems like common sense that if you're going to go vote in a precinct, you have to actually vote in the precinct you're from. I want to go kind of big picture here for you just to get your take on what President Trump said with that decision. You see what's happening now in the New York City's mayor's race. We all know about what's going on in Georgia. And also Amy Klobuchar, I mean, a U.S. senator going down to Georgia, she's from Minnesota, to talk about elections. I thought elections were supposed to be run by the state. So your take on what's going on here, and then what are we doing to make this right?
So I think the big picture takeaway from the 6-3 decision in Arizona is how, I mean, listen, we're dealing with a lot of things, right? Essentially the new thing now on any of these issues is if you agree in states' rights, if you agree in voter security, you will get canceled. You will do all of that. I don't want to oversimplify this, but I haven't read the whole case. I read the synopsis and everything. But essentially, I think the biggest takeaway is that the Supreme Court ruled in favor of the state of Arizona. And it said if you are going to make racial disparity claims and what I call the legal version of these woke claims, you can't just throw them against the wall and hope they stick. The Supreme Court wants data. They want least restrictive means. And they ruled that the ruling is definitely a win for states' rights and how they conduct their elections. The ballot harvesting part of that and all of that that's specific to what states do and what they're trying to stop. I personally think elections should be over on election day. I love how North Dakota does it. One of the reasons I don't want we don't have voter registration. I think the federal government should stay as far away. We don't have federal elections. We have local elections to elect federal officers. And that is really, truly how it works. So the ruling is good. It's a 6-3 ruling. It's tight. It's where it needs to be. And I think going forward, that's going to be a win for states who are trying to keep, but also popular opinions here too. Only in Washington, D.C. is voter ID controversial. Everywhere else across the country, it's not controversial. It doesn't matter if you're a Democrat or a Republican. If you're young or you're old, people recognize that having an ID to do anything in society is needed, and it's not that big of a burden to put on people, particularly with states like North Dakota that give it away for free.
The governor of Texas and governor of Arizona have created like the statewide compact where now other states can go and, for example, South Dakota is sending down National Guard. Other states, Florida, are doing things to help out at our southern border. I texted Lieutenant Governor Brent Sanford yesterday, asked him, hey, are any resources from North Dakota going down to the southern border? He said, not that I'm aware of. Should North Dakota be sending some kind of resources, some kind of support down to our southern border?
That's a discussion for the governor's office and talking with Texas and Arizona. And I don't ever want to kick those decisions, but we deal with enough of the federal stuff and what we should be doing out here. And those are real conversations to have at that level. I don't want federal involvement in the North Dakota National Guard any more than is absolutely necessary. So but I do think that we need to secure our southern border. And I think my friend Ashley Hinton from Iowa says this the best. Every state's a border state right now. And if you have illicit drugs coming into your state, and if you're seeing a spike in any of those things, you need to, it doesn't matter if you're as far away from the southern border as North Dakota is, you need to care about what's going on down there.
So then what do we do to get this thing? I mean, because President Trump said last night on Hannity, look, we can't wait till 2022 an election to get this thing solved because it's going to be, so what being in the minority, what can you guys do to start to shift the direction here?
Well, being in the minority is messaging, right? I mean, particularly in the House. And that's why I'm glad that a group go down there. I'm glad I went down there. I all of those different issues. I've dealt with these issues. First, we have to, I think the first thing is making sure Title 42 as it exists today stays in place. Because if the Biden administration restricts that, Katie bar the door down there. That is incredibly important. And then we have to figure, we have Operation Stone Garden that Representative Tony Gonzalez has put in. That is just basic funding for these mutual aid agreements that are going up and going on down there. We have to continue to push. We have to, we've got Representative Cuellar trying to put pressure on his own party. We've got Democratic mayors on the southern border trying to put pressure on their own party. We got to give them the loudest microphone we can, because you and I both know the national media is not going to cover this accurately.
So with that being said, one last thing I want to share with you, just your take on, is that the BBC, it's not even an American, news network, the BBC reporting some just horrific conditions down at these migrant child camps. President Trump talked about you've got kids now on suicide watch. I mean, look, if you're going to have kids coming into our country, we need to take care of them. We need to educate them, feed them, and put them in safe conditions. Don't you agree?
Well, I appreciate the BBC covering that, but even in those headlines, you can tell the difference. 3 years ago, it was kids in cages. Now it's minor camps. The problem down there is the media is a big part of the reason why there's a problem down there and how they cover this. But yes, we should be. If you're a 6-year-old kid, I don't care where you're from in the world. I want to give you a hug. Like, that's what I want to do. I want to make sure you're fed, you're taken care of, and you're not handed an emergency blanket and forced to sleep on a floor. I mean, that's after the journey. Right. So the biggest thing we have to do is, and only the administration can do this, they have to put up a big stop sign and say, you cannot come. And one offhand comment in the middle of one interview, 91 days too late, isn't going to solve that problem.
Last question for you, because there was a hearing on it yesterday. Tucker Carlson suggested the NSA has been illegally spying on him, his production team. I think it was Matt Gaetz yesterday called for an investigation. I think even Kevin McCarthy has. Do you support that? And what can you guys do to put some handcuffs around the NSA?
So I'm a little different on all of this stuff. I don't think they should be spying on any American. I'm glad we're doing it. It sounds like Devin Nunes will probably be doing it. The guy who's been demonized by the left more than anybody, who continues to be proven right. But I hope, you asked me about the pretrial detention of the January 6th people. We had an entire administration spying on President Biden. We have a leak from last week about, members of Congress and the press getting caught up in these investigations. I hope, and this is my fervent hope, that all of these things, I hope they take it as seriously when it's regular everyday citizens and not just members of Congress and news media persons. So whatever gets us an investigation that gets us back to Fourth Amendment protections, I don't care how political it is, because I'm more interested in what the next conversation is.